Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Welcome back to another morning, another episode of How Go On. It is a Warfare Wednesday. Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. Today we will talk about how everything is spiritual. Why would people deny that idea? Why would they want to deny that idea? And what good comes from believing it? Everything is spiritual. I'm your host, Herbie. Good morning, everyone, and this is How Go On. Here to do every day, every morning on Pagawon, feeling so great from the inside out. Please remember to allow all of these words enter in one ear and out the other as we go through a little bit of guided meditation, a little bit of guided breathing, a little bit of guided thinking, all in all, always to feel so good, because when you feel good, you think good, and when you think good, you do good. You know? Feeling so good from the inside out, using maybe a few body magic tricks to make you feel really great. We'll be right back. Herbie like. What are we here about on Pagawon? We are here about that superpower of yours, here on the only podcast in 3D exclusively for you. Your superpower. Recognizing your superpower and podcasting our way through that superpower, as you are this superpowered window to this godlike experience, aren't you? As in your self-awareness, are you not able to shift that around, and have your entire body's experience changed you to it? For example, have you ever noticed how you can individuate your left arm from your right arm? In fact, you can individuate your whole left arm from your entire body and make your left arm feel like its own entity, separate from your body, can you not? As you control that thing, moving it left and right, forward, backwards, all sorts of things. Are you not able to individuate that? And then are you not able to bring it right back together and make it part of the entire body once more? Part of your single awareness of your entire body. Say you be snowboarding, say you be running, say you be speaking. Sometimes your arms will move fluidly, part of your single intention, your single authentic intention of your body. Or sometimes you can raise your left arm and keep it in isolation in your mental awareness of your internal body. Like if you're raising your hand in a classroom, for example. That left arm could be the entire focus. And is that not your self-awareness being stretched and pulled around like Laffy Taffy? And is that not a superpower of your own? Do you still not believe me? Do you still not believe me? Well, how about when you look around right now? When you look around at the room, or if you're thinking about these words entering in one ear and out the other, like some kind of cartoon character. As if there were words physically entering your ear, like big text entering one ear and then out the other. Or are you cooking some eggs this morning? Are you looking outside? Or are you looking at your computer? As your awareness shifts, does your sense of self not shift? Your sense of self, as in how your right arm feels different than your left arm. How some days you feel like you're getting off the wrong side of the bed or the right side of the bed. How do you engage with that? How do you know that's happening? Where is that happening? in this kinesthetic experience, right? In this body self-awareness superpower of yours. Able to stretch and compartmentalize itself and fragment itself enough to feel specific parts of the bodies as separate. If you ever want to isolate certain parts of your bodies that might be aching, so you know where the pain is. And then once again, the body is able to use that self-awareness to pull itself back together again and become one and wholesome again. What does that word wholesome even mean, if not for referencing to the human body itself? Where do we get the idea of feeling wholesome? Why does wholesome feel good? Why is the idea of wholesome associated with the idea of good things? Possibly because our body itself, the first experience that we have with the world, our first connection to the world, gauges its quality and its livelihood with itself based on how one it feels with itself. Is that not true? Check it with yourself. Use your self-awareness, your superpower is self-awareness of yours. Always allowing all these words to enter one ear and out the other. How do they feel for you? How does it feel for you to know that your body wants to feel at one with itself? Does it remind you of any times in your life? Getting a stomach ache, does that not feel less like oneness? Does it feel more like otherness? Like the stomach is now an other part of the body and not one with the whole body again, right? When your body is feeling one whole with itself, it does not isolate its stomach away from itself, but rather the stomach feels effortless. The stomach feels a part of your whole experience. You don't notice your stomach because it is all one thing. When we are lacking pain and lacking conflict in our body's motions, is that not true? Doesn't everything that we decide to be good in terms of wholesomeness, in terms of how things feel, starts off in the body, right? It starts off in the body, right? Where else can it be? So we gauge our entire experience with the world based on our entire body, as we don't know anything else but our body. Our experience ends here. But that's a good thing. So today we talk about how everything is spiritual, using that superpowered, amazing superpower of self-awareness of yours. Able to isolate parts of itself to remind you where to balance yourself to feel whole again, to get to this entire place that we always want to feel whole again. And if you still don't believe me with this self-awareness power wherever you are, whether you're on the computer at work this morning, whether you are driving your car, taking the kids to school, whether you are dropping off kids at the pool, whether you are taking a shower, whatever you are doing right now, as we are stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every morning, whatever you're doing right now. If you would like to try this self-awareness little body magic trick with me. If you would with me in your head, just say it with me. You don't have to say it out loud. Just pretend with me. Just say it in your head. Pretend with me. Just say it in your head. There's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. And just pretend that there's a candle. You don't have to think about exhaling or inhaling. Just pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And say it with me, even if it's in your head. Even if it's in your head, just say it with me. Pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. And just observe your sense of self as that happens. And this is your self-awareness at work. One more time, let's bring your self-awareness to the proper channels. Let's pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips. It's just flickering in front of the lips, like 1 to 2 inches. It's just flickering there. You're trying to not put it out. You're not trying to put it out. You're trying to not put it out. You're not thinking about inhaling. You're not thinking about exhaling. Just pretend there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And say it with me. Even if it's in your head, it works better out loud, but even if it's just in your head, if you're at work or if you can't talk right now, but if it works better out loud, say it if you can. But if you can't, say it in your head. Say it with me. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. Always pretending there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Always, always, always. One more time, say it with me, even if it's in your head. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. Indeed, it's true that consciously in our acts of life, the muscles that we consciously associate with swallowing should not be engaged when we are breathing, when we are speaking, when we are doing anything. Oh no. When you are doing anything, you know? Thank you very much, Secret. It is very important for us to get together on these things and guide the podcast. So thank you. We are adjusting the category to from a video game to this podcast to this talk show to make sure people find the right channels, as we are always switching our awareness channels to the proper areas again. So please with me one last time before we talk about how everything is spiritual, why people would even deny that, and why people would want to deny that, and what does it mean if it's true that everything is spiritual. I'm sure we've heard that throughout our lives. Everything is spiritual. Do we not cast that away as unscientific most of the times? We talk about why everything might be spiritual and what that might mean. And before we do, let's stretch our self-awareness one more time and use that superpower of ours. Please feel so good from the inside out in a way that nobody can take away from you, right? This awareness of yours, able to mold your experience, and no one can take that away from you unless you let your attention be taken away from it. So please, one more time, pretend with me in the first podcast in 3D that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's flickering there no matter what, and you're just trying to not put it out. No matter what. You could be doing backflips in slow motion. You could be moonwalking. You could be flying away like Mary Poppins. You could be a mile high in an airplane. There's always a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. 2 to 3 inches. I don't care what you're doing. You could be making out with somebody. You could be stuffing food in your face. There's still a candle 2 to 3 inches away from your lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. One more time, say it with me in your head if you would. Pretend there's a candle in front of the lips. That you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone. And aren't we all just observing that together? Observing our sense of self as that happens. I've been told that it's like all of your periphery comes to one spot. I've been told that it's like a whole new world. I've been told that it's like a whole new life. Might that be a whole new way? You want to know something else that's pretty cool too? Is like you can anchor the tip of your tongue to the back of your bottom front teeth. As in, like, the tip of your tongue, you can like pretend that like the tip of your tongue is really where the control of your tongue comes from, and that's anchored to like the back of your bottom incisors. So like imagine the control panel being down there. As you once again pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. To leave your swallowing muscles all the way alone as you do so. Now are you observing your sense of self as you anchor that tip of the tongue to the back of the bottom front teeth as our tags went all the way away. Well, we will be right back after this short break to talk about how everything is spiritual. Why would people deny that? Why would people want to deny that? And what good comes out of believing it to be true? Might there be any? We'll be right back, everyone. Thank you. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. This is another Warfare Wednesday. We're back, everybody. It's 8:48 a.m. Good morning, everyone. Are you ready to strap on some spiritual armor? Are you ready to put on some mental what's that word? Kevlar. Are you ready to put on some mental Kevlar? Some spiritual Kevlar? Today, as the world is constantly trying to beat us down, they ain't gonna take us alive. Today, we talk about how everything is spiritual. Why are they trying to get us to deny that? Why would people want to deny that everything is spiritual? People themselves, are we not the strong window to this godlike experience that we are? So why is it that we would ever deny that anything is spiritual if already, look at us already putting candles in front of our lips, feeling so good. Remember to put those candles in front of the lips and trying to not put them out and leaving those swallowing muscles alone. Look at us getting all ready to go to war. Look at us all ready to go to spiritual warfare as this world spirals. Let's do this, everybody. Let's get ready. They're gonna try to tell us that not everything is spiritual. Why would they try to deny that everything is spiritual? They're trying to divide us, baby. They're trying to tell us that nothing is relatable. If there is no spirit, there's nothing to be related on. Why would people want to deny the fact that everything is spiritual? Well, it's scary. Isn't it scary to start actually asking the idea, what is spirituality? As it is so hard to describe. And it is so hard to begin explaining to other people. And it is so hard to even agree that we're all feeling the same thing. And should we put a definition on this thing like love or spirituality or responsibility? If we start to put definitions on those things, is it not scary for the individual to possibly not live up to those expectations now? If someone says, hey, life is all about love. Life is all about love. If you put a definition on that, is it not a little bit scary now? Does it not feel a little bit like, hey, I might not get that thing? As opposed to love being this vapid, oh, it's everywhere. Oh, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, la 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 la. I'll get it whenever I want. I always have it. Well, I mean, it's not really that true, because what happens when you start not feeling it? What is that, love? Then you're trapped now. You are blackmailed and you are not allowed to talk about how this thing is not love, because someone else is going to counter you and be like, hey, I view that as love. There's a big danger to not putting hard definitions on these things. Although it might be scary to put hard definitions on these things, these abstracts that we talk about on Padawan. But why is it hard to put definitions on those abstracts? Because when you put definitions on those abstracts, doesn't it become harder to get closer to those abstracts? As you put a definition on it, doesn't it feel like you can get less and less of it? This spirituality, this love thing, it feels like, hey, if we put a definition on it, oh my god, I risk the idea of not getting it. Right? Oh, if we put a definition on love, if I put a definition on responsibility or duty or spirituality, if we don't put a definition on it, then that means I can never not get it, right? Isn't that why it's scary? It might be tempting to want to deny the idea that everything is spiritual, because what if you can't feel it? What if you can't feel it? Why would it be scary to define love? Well, what if you can't feel it? What if you don't get it? What if you put a definition on this love thing and then you don't get it? Yeah, it could be scary. Of course it's scary. Of course people don't want to believe that everything is spiritual. It's the same way that people don't want to put a definition on love. You don't want to box it in, because then you are restricting some people from it, and we understand that it is such an important thing. We already understand it to be true. It is such a valuable thing. Love, spirituality, all these inner abstracts, courage, wisdom, all those things that are abstracts, and we know them to be part of the human experience, but yet we don't want to define them for fear of being shut out from it. But why would we be afraid of being shut out from it? Because our spirit would hurt? Why? Because everything is spiritual. That's why. We wouldn't be this so gung-ho about not defining it if everything wasn't spiritual. But too bad everything is spiritual. As in, because everything is spiritual, and that's a good thing. Because everything is spiritual, that is why we know that love has a definition, and that is why we know spirit has a definition, and wisdom has a definition, and all that kind of stuff. It might not have a linear definition like one we can put out with words in the same way that we put a definition onto these languages, but they have definitions to us inside relationships with ourselves, to our souls, and we can all agree upon that with each other, and that gives us language to orient towards one another. Finally, do you want love? Yes. How do you know that? Because I have a spirit. Not like a ghosty thing, guys. Not like a not like a ghost. A spirit as in like an intention towards wanting to feel good, wanting to feel happiness, wanting to spread love. You know that thing you know how everyone wants to spread love? That's a spiritual thing. As in the spirit shared amongst everybody, we already know that. What is that love thing? It's an orientation towards this idea of spreading love. Now, everyone might have a different idea of what that love is, what that love looks like, reflected like, but that relationship to this idea of love for our inner experience, with what exactly, right? That kinesthetic experience of ours, our spirit, which defines how we do everything. You still don't believe me? What about your spirit towards your job? How good if you don't have a positive spirit towards your job, if you're cooking, how good is your food going to taste if you're just throwing salt on there because you hate the food that you're doing? However, if you have a loving spirit, as everybody has a spirit, right? Everybody has a spirit. So if your spirit is colored in the idea of love, aren't you going to be spending more time putting a little bit more salt on there? Aren't you going to be looking at that thing with more detail? Because you love it more, right? Because you are aligning with your spirit of love. And so even your physical actions are reflected differently. You do different things in little microscopic ways that are just almost impossible to quantify until we start getting tracked completely, which is coming soon to a theater near you, I'm sure. I mean, it always happening, but to an even lesser degree of freedom we'll see soon. But as everything is spiritual, as in we all have a spirit within, which is a good thing, which is why we understand that people want love. How would you even know that these people want love if it wasn't a spiritual thing? All about your loved ones. How would you even know if they were going for was this loving thing that you also felt, if there was no spiritual thing? The spiritual thing allows us a language between people, an actual language between people. It's like, all right, I know that you're loving, and I know that we think that it looks differently. So how do we discuss towards getting closer to this idea of similar love? How could we even begin discussing that without first agreeing on this idea of a spirit between us that wants to get to the same goal? The spirit is more about wanting to get to the same goal of lacking the spirit is about wanting to get the same thing of overcoming suffering, of being able to be strong enough to overcoming, to be able to be free of conflict. How do we know that that's true? What if some people just wanted to be in conflict forever and they just wanted to just hate life? Is there anybody out there who just wants to hate life all the time? Who just wants to hate life? No, we know that to be not true. Everybody's spirit is trying to claw their way towards some type of better happiness, right? Trying to claw their way from underneath the ground, trying to claw their way towards some certain relief, towards their own what? Their own spirit, right? As in their own kinesthetic experience, your own, whether or not you feel like you're good today, like your consciousness, like whether you're on the good side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed. Imagine constantly waking up off the wrong side of the bed every day and it's worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right? Wouldn't that kill your what? Spirit. Yeah, we don't have an exact definition of like a physical corporeal definition, but our inner experience has a relationship with this experience. And that relationship itself is real. That relationship with yourself that causes you to feel that kinesthetic experience, which eventually affects your entire life. Even the way you moved. When you're depressed, literally not just in the way you move moment to moment, but when you're depressed, affects your entire life's movement. I'm not gonna go to work today. I'm gonna stay in home and be late. I'm gonna call off work. that kinesthetic experience ends up affecting more than just your day-to-day coordination, but it ends up affecting your willingness to devote energy to certain things in your life that you would want to have done if you had energy for it. That energy gets drained. Your spirit gets drained. Your spirit can actually get drained. The spirit, as in this kinesthetic experience of yours, not some Casper thing, right? But this kinesthetic experience of yours, doesn't it take form in always trying to claw itself and try to find better for itself? How do we know that to be true of everybody? Well, this idea of a spirit, right? This spirit, this idea, this similar idea that everybody's clawing their way towards less suffering. And we can expect that kind of orientation inside out from everybody. It might not have a physical, describable shape like this sphere does in my hand. If you're looking at the screen, it might not have a describable physical shape like this, unless you count your body. But it very much has a concrete relationship with us. It very much has a concrete definition for us to work with, which is our relationship with ourselves. Our relationship with our body's ability to give energy to itself to participate in whatever you might want. So we know the same spirit to be true in everybody. As we're allowing all these words to enter one ear in one ear and out the other, we have similarities and we see it within everybody. How else would you know that people had the better intentions to want to get better? How else would you know those things? We'll be right back. If you would please pretend with me that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. And we can share a common 3D language from the inside out. Much better than the language that we try to speak. We'll be right back.
Representations. Everything is merely a description, not the real myself. Everything is simply a shape, a form, an identifier to let others recognize me as me. But then, what am I? Is this me? My true self? My fake self? What is it that I am? There's little difference between how you interpret yourself and how the others interpret you. Right. My clothes, my shoes, my room. These are all parts of what makes up myself. These things are connected through your consciousness. So what I think is me is me. What I recognize as self is myself. I'm no more and no less than the sum of my self-awareness. But I don't understand myself. Where am I? What am I? What am I? The only one who can take care of you and understand you is you.
Ha 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 ha. You hear that? That was a total coincidence, by the way. This song is called Take Care by Driver. Found it on this mix called Jubilant Day. By an author or an account called Normandy Beach Party on YouTube. They're talking about, see, check it out. They're talking about, like, what am I? What am I? I'm my awareness, but what am I? What am I? And it does all this reverb and it gets all dramatic. Right? Like, exactly. What are we, right? Like, we lost our self-awareness, but we got it right back. It's right here. It's like, we have all the pieces mentally. We're like, okay, yeah, it's true that we are our self-awareness. So what's the last piece of the puzzle? Well, to actually know what we are. As in physically, That's all we need left to know. As in right here, as in the weight of the body goes down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all of the times. And not into the back of the spine. And why is it so important to correct misconceptions about the body like that? Well, when we're saying stuff like, what am I? What am I? People don't want to go the whole way. They just want to stop at just like where it's convenient. They're just like, what am I? And then when they start talking about like stuff that's harder to feel, like the spirit, they're just like, no, that's not real. Well, we're trying to talk to you about you. So we went a little bit further. We went physical. We were like, all right, you don't want to believe us that there's a way to breathe. Science was like, science and this window to this godlike experience that you are. We're like, okay, we get it. You don't know yourself. That's pretty freaking literal. Did you know that? As in, did you know that you don't sit on your legs? What's the significance of that? Well, as our whole society has been trying to tell us that our lives are not spiritual throughout life, throughout our upbringings in the last few decades, as the world has been trying to convince us that things are not spiritual, aka that humans have nothing in common, everybody has developed their own internal representation of the way their body behaves. Some people believe that their hips are all the way up here, where their waist, quote unquote, might be. Some people, if you ask them to point where their leg starts, they might point up here, over there. And some people, if you ask them where their leg starts, they might point all the way down here, where their sit bones are. And other people might correctly point to the hip joint right there, which is floating and not sitting on the sitting surface that you are on. And so, if you are not cognizant of all those differences that you might have with this other person, are you really having the same experience with them? As our whole experience is truly calibrated based on our body's self-awareness, as we discussed earlier, as you can place that candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave your swallowing muscles alone. Your entire 3D experience is affected from the inside out. So if we are not on the same page about how our inside out is structured, functioned, and shaped, how can we be sure that we're spiritually on the same page when we speak to each other? How can we be sure that we're on the same plane, that we're thinking in the same area, that our spirits are aligned at that time, so that that we're having a productive conversation, one that is actually producing a lot of meaning and not producing a lot of confusion? Right? So when we say stuff like, who are we? What am I? What am I? I am this thing. I am my self-awareness. I am the things that I'm aware of. Well, why are we being just aware of things outside? It's so wild, right? Yeah, no wonder we don't know ourselves, because we were literally just paying attention to the outside world. Let's pay attention to ourselves now, literally on the insides. What were we wrong about? It's not so much that we have a hard time understanding ourselves. It's that growing up throughout lives, because we're so smart, we learn from society, we learn from watching all different sources of how to behave, right? We learn from, okay, we put our feet there, we sit down this way, we cross our legs that way, we do this, we do that. All learning from the outside in, always looking at outside examples of how to balance our body from the inside out, which makes zero sense. We must learn to balance our body from the inside out, from feeling first. But it's difficult if we have all of these misconceptions, which are not to blame. You didn't ask for these misconceptions. Who the hell looks at a human body and thinks, yeah, there's probably sit bones. There's probably arches there underneath their pelvic area. And their legs are probably feeling like they float there. Like, you don't look at a human body and think that. I wouldn't, right? And yet it is so. It is so that we do not sit on our legs. In fact, our structure defines that we do not sit on our legs, and that's a good thing. It might feel foreign, but the muscles that relax on the inside of this pelvic area, the inside of this pelvic area right here, those ridges, feel so good as they relax, as you allow your legs to the permission to not be part of the spirit of sitting, so to speak. As everything is spiritual, right? Everything is this intention. And our intentions are always going to be funneled by our body's experience, as our body's always allowing itself, giving itself permission for energy for certain things, right? After a while of getting rejected from the same person, your body disallows you the energy of putting time into that person. It's just not worth it, right? Your body disallows the energy of going in that direction. After trying so hard to go to sleep after a while, your body, if you get frustrated after a while, your body disallows the energy of thinking about going there, and redirects its energy somewhere else. Not in a ghostly way, but rather, doesn't your body feel more and more drained when you do something that is spiritually damaging to you? Our spirit, right, always trying to find a way out of our spirit always trying to find a way to overcome a negative feeling, right? Or a feeling of lacking the ability to overcome. Our spirit always trying to float up to the surface, right? Everything is spiritual. As in what you do, as in the energy that you put yourself into, is spiritual. As in, like, there's an entire spirit towards your job. How early you were there, how much work you put into it, how much extra work you put into it, how happy you are doing it, how late you stay, how early you leave, how much you talk to people when you're there, how much you take physical ownership of, how much you feel like you take personal responsibility over all this stuff. All of it, not to be confused with things to do, but rather those are descriptions of the spirit towards that job. And the spirit is something you can affect more, right? The spirit is something you can correct. Those individual things, oh, you got to be earlier to work. You can focus all your time and energy on going earlier to work. But if your spirit's not aligned, well, then your work's going to suffer because you're going to be going to work begrudgingly early. Okay, if you want to stay later, well, you're going to stay late. You're going to focus on that one thing, that one individual outside world representation of a good spirit, quote unquote, towards your work. You're going to focus on that one individual thing instead of the spirit towards work. You're going to focus on that 2D thing, on that one instance of like, oh, I notice people who are dedicated to work stay late. So I'm going to copy that one thing. I'm going to stay late. You're going to do it begrudgingly. And you're going to hate yourself for it. And it's going to suck. Because the spirit of the work is still tainted. But rather we can reverse engineer that. Fix the spirit of the work and watch everything else align. You start showing up to work earlier. You start putting more salt on the food properly, or you start consulting the right people properly, or you stop having lack of confidence in this area, or you start taking more personal responsibility for your job, or you start staying later. But the thing is, you don't notice those things are happening because those are outward reflections of the spirit being corrected. And so your body has more energy to do those things for that job of yours. It allows itself more energy to do those things because its spirit is properly corrected. Its idea, its plan towards floating up towards a feeling of relief, towards non-suffering. Your inner plan towards getting to non-suffering is understood. And it's confident. And how does it do that? Not through ghostly magic, not through Casper, through logic. Through science. Not capital S science, but the process of science, which is independent of any one experiment. The process of science, which includes questioning, which includes deep, deep questioning of the self, which includes deep, deep questioning of everything. Constant scrutiny. Constant doubt of the self, because the self is constantly wrong about all these things, because the spirit is constantly needing to be corrected. When you tell a child, don't hit that child, don't hit them, for you are not supposed to hit somebody for this kind of offense, for calling you a name, you do not hit them. You correct it. They didn't know. They go, oh, okay, that's a truism. You see, the spirit and the inner consciousness is so freaking strong. You window to this godlike experience that you are, you 3D experience that you are, when this first podcast in 3D, the first podcast in 3D. This window to this godlike experience that you are, this crazy vessel that you are so amazing that your superpowered awareness, your superpowered consciousness is able to just create universes of understanding from just small amounts of information, can see patterns in the weave. Thousands of years from now, hundreds of thousands of billions of years from now, it can see patterns. How do you know this? How do we know this to be true? Well, once you know 2 + 2 = 4, don't you know that 5 freaking billion and 3 + 2 equals 5 freaking billion 3, or it equals 5 billion and freaking 5. You didn't need to count all those, but you saw patterns and you understood the weave. So these humans, this vessel that you are, this amazing godlike experience that you are, your spirit, that part of your inner consciousness is so freaking fast, so exponentially faster than language, than the language that we speak out in life with words. That the only way you can properly guide it, the only way you can properly control it is with logic itself, is with rules. Not any particular idea. Not like, oh, this is the right idea. This is the exact amount of money you need to be happy. This is the precise angle and height that your head should be facing in to be attractive. No precise measurements like that, but rather rules, rather guiders, rather logic itself is able to orient the spirit. The spirit is a scientific matter, not scientific as in beakers and scopes and microscopes, but scientific as in constantly scrutinizing, constantly questioning, constantly testing the validity of. The spirit is always doing, which is why you can be at a job and it breaks your spirit, because it's constantly asking yourself every day, is this going to achieve that? Is this going to achieve that relief that you want? And your brain's like, nope, because your brain has a certain idea of what it wants, but we can correct that. We can correct that spiritually. This idea that they're trying to separate us apart, blah, 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 that everybody's different. They're trying to say that that there is no spirituality. They're trying to get us to deny that everything could be spiritual. Why? To divide you. Why? Because they want you. They want you to do what they want without you knowing about it. Who are they? Oh, you know who they are. You know who they are. Pretty much your parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, but everybody else too. Most of the media, most of the world. You know what I'm talking about. Why would they want anybody to deny the idea that spirituality is a thing? Not spirituality as this ghost thing, right? But spirituality as in a common language. Why would they want us to not have a common language to understand that we all are actually do have good intentions, that we all are actually going after what we believe to be best for people? They don't want us to believe that we are all actually doing the best that we can. They don't want us to believe that we can all actually see that other people are actually trying to do the best for others. It's much easier. It's much easier. It's much, much, much easier to selfishly get what you want if you're able to deny people the ability to speak to each other, especially on an empathetic level. If we lack the faith that other people might have a similar spirit of wanting the best for other people, well, doesn't that crush our spirit? Doesn't that make us the judgmental ones? Doesn't that make us the sad ones? We will be right back after this short break to finish off what happens when we give ourselves permission to orient towards understanding, aka permission to believe that everything is indeed spiritual. We'll be right back.
Water?
Yeah, water.
Well, we only serve paying customers, so you'll have to order more than water. If you're broke, go somewhere else.
50 dumplings. Is it a deal?
Huh?
You feed me, and I'll take care of those guys for you.
But,
Welcome back to the Best Feeling Network, your only no nonsense podcast. Stretching our self awareness like a muscle every morning. Where are you right now? How are you? How are you doing? Are you stretching your legs? Have you been feeling the front of your shins? Have you been remembering that you do not sit on your legs? Have you anchored the tip of the tongue to the back of the bottom front teeth this morning as you pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out? It's just a candle there, it's just flickering. You don't have to think about inhaling or exhaling, just pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. As you leave your swallowing muscles alone, as you do so. As we observe our sense of self. We are worldwide. We are worldwide. Are you out there? South Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Taiwan, Vietnam, Russia, Africa, New Zealand, Iceland, wherever you are. Are you pretending that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out? And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. Don't think about breathing in and out. Don't think about breathing in and out as you anchor the tip of the tongue to the back of the bottom front teeth. Whether you're indoors and there's light creaking through, whether you're looking at a screen or whether you're looking outside at the great view at the ocean. Off of some cliffs or some trees, or you're hanging out with your dog. Or you hang out in the park just by your lonesome with a guitar or maybe a notebook or nothing at all. Lying down, look at the sky. How are you? How are you? Remember that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out and to leave your swallowing muscles all the way alone. It's a party. It's a party in that body of ours, in this window to this godlike experience that you are. Remember, as we were talking about earlier, what happens when we start to give ourselves permission to orient towards understanding, as in permission to believe everything is spiritual, that we do have an understanding. We do have a language to understand each other on. We do have a language to understand each other. The spirit, right? Not something in still motion, but rather something always moving, always in constant motion. It's like asking if a wheel's balance is real as it rolls. Is a wheel's balance real? Can you see it? I mean, in motion. But if it's in still motion, you don't know if that tire is just a fake tire just glued to the ground. But as you roll this wheel, you know that balance is real, right? You can see the balance as the wheel rolls. Not falling over, this bike wheel, right? As you roll that bike wheel or that hula hoop wheel, you don't see the balance, but at the same time, you kind of see the balance, right? Same thing with the spirit. We know the spirit exists because we know what it looks like. We know the human spirit exists because we know what it looks like, and we know what it looks like and it feels like on the inside too. It's this constant motion towards balance, this constant motion towards balancing the self, the spirit, right? This constant motion towards trying to overcome suffering, towards trying to claw itself out from under the ground, towards some kind of relief, towards overcoming suffering. We know what it looks like the same way we know what balance looks like in a rolling wheel, do we not? But they want to get us to believe that that's not a thing. That people don't have that ability to balance themselves. That people don't have that desire, that need, that amazing ability to balance themselves. Not just to balance themselves, but to achieve amazing freedom through that balance. Where does the wheel go? Where do you go once you achieve that balance? They don't want you to believe that everything is spiritual because it's going to energize you. It's going to blow you up with superpowers as you become superpowered by everything, as everything is the same as you. You learn from everything now because you have a common language. They don't want us to have a common language. They don't want us to permit ourselves to orient towards a common language, but it's okay. That's how our body is too. It's not just these people on the outside. They're just like us, right? We know everything from the inside out. Our bodies are the same way. Did you know that your body is the one to permit you to do certain things? Right? Your body permits you the energy towards doing things that your spirit allows it to do, right? Your spirit permits you to do certain things. Permits you energy, right? Or it disallows you from doing certain things, right? So as our spirits and our consciousness are so strong that we can't tell it exactly what to do, but we can kind of tell it a pattern of what to do. Along with that thinking, we can also give it permission of what to do, our bodies. We can give our spirit permission, or we can disallow it permission. When they try to tell us that spirituality and when they try to tell us that not everything is spiritual, as in people don't have a spirit, a common understanding of language of trying to overcome suffering that we can all relate on, if they try to tell us that nothing is like that, well, doesn't that tell us to stop giving ourselves permission to orient towards understanding, orient towards empowering ourselves through learning about the world through ourselves? Isn't it so impossible to learn about the world without any kind of compass, without any kind of guide? What, we're so separate from the world? What hope do we have to understand anything in the world then? No, it's not the case. We are the world. We are the world. You are the children. We are the world. As in, this spirit that we understand to be within us exists in all people. So everything that has ever been touched by human beings is affected by this thing, this spirit thing. Yes, there is common understanding. Yes, there is common understanding. Yes, there is self-balancing. There is hope for you to understand the world for yourself. Love the world for yourself. How? Through yourself. Thank you guys for coming through today on another Warfare Wednesday. It is August 25th, 2021. We have a couple of announcements. We have some music coming soon. So these VODs, who knows, they might be taken down because we are using them thanks to the superpower of our awareness of YouTube, which was created with the human spirit, as all things are. So we are coming up with music. So anybody in the VODs or anybody hanging out with us, I want to say first, thank you always for always coming to listen to the videos, to watch the videos, to let me know how you feel about it. All of the words have not been falling on deaf ears at all. The work has been always forward moving. We have music coming soon. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. I really like the way that these quotes came out in this in today's episode during our breaks. So if you guys have any suggestions out there for any clips that have to do with the show that you think would be really cool to throw in the music, if we have hypothetically if we had some custom music being made for Pal Go On, please do not be a stranger. Let us know in the comments. Send a DM. Let us know. Just hit me up on Twitter. Send us some quotes. I love those anime quotes. That was beautiful. Super inspiring. Anime is super spiritual, so we're all about that here. So any suggestions, we are super open to suggestions. So please, if you have any suggestions during the show, please leave them in the comments, or please leave in the chat box. We'll get them to them at the end of the show. If you have comments or suggestions, at any other time, you can leave them in comments. You can message them. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter. Please like, share, subscribe. It really does help a lot. As we are moving forward, we are always going to be we're going to be here, guys. We're going to be holding it down with Pal Go On. Look forward to the next few centuries with Pal Go On. So any kind of assistance on board right now is going to be fantastic. Let's get on this rocket ship, everybody. Please pretend with me that there's a candle. Please pretend with me in the first podcast in 3D that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. Don't think about breathing in and out. Just place into your awareness this candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And observe your sense of self as you leave your swallowing muscles alone. Feeling so good in that spiritual Kevlar of yours. Nothing can affect your spirit here. Your spirit is free. As you are remembering with me that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. Wherever you are, whether you're looking at the computer, allowing these words to go in one ear, not the other, whether you are walking around or sitting down, please leave those swallowing muscles alone and say it with me, even if it's in your head. Leave those swallowing muscles alone. And in your head, say it with me. Pretend there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. World peace through individual inner strength. World peace through inner world peace. One more time, please say it with me. Pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. In your head, even if you can't speak out loud, that's totally okay. Please, in your head with me. If you're asleep or if you're awake, please pretend with me and say it with me in your head that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. And I want you to feel the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all of the times. Remember, everybody, that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Say it with me. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Say it. Weight-bearing portion of the spine is the... Again. Again. Weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Thank you so much, Secret, especially shout out Secret Skin for helping us out in the early beginning. And special shout out to you and your body. Have a good one, everybody. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Thank you guys for coming through. Special shout out to you and your body out there, feeling so good from the inside out, that window to this godlike experience that you are. You amazing human creature, you amazing failing forward creature, you amazing creature, you have a great experience out there. Remember to feel the weight of the body down the front of the spine and that you do not sit on your legs. Feel the front of the shins like you are some little baby childlike thing. You little baby childlike thing. Feel the front of your shins like you were in that fetal position. Keep that in your awareness, everybody. And have a great freaking day. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would. Feel without. My name is Herbie and we'll see you tomorrow in Pagawan. Freaking.